Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. So I have seen this type of share done before and I'm not sure what it's called, but this is sort of my own take on it. I just figured out a way to do this with what I had, and I'm going to call it a Matchbook die cut share. So I have taken a 12 by 12 piece of pattern paper and I've trimmed that at 5 inches and I've left this the full length. So I've got that strip along the bottom in place. And I'm going to go ahead and score this first at 1/2 inch right along the line of that bottom strip. And then at 6 1/4, 6 1/2, and 6 3/4. And I'm going to go ahead and fold on all of those score lines. Now I'm doing those 3 lines in the center there because I wanted to give leeway to be able to add in all of the goodies that I want to share. So that's going to give me a nice thickness, and it's also going to help as this bends to close. I'm going to tuck it up underneath that flap there. So I've got my base created here, and now I want to add the pages that are going to flip. I'm going to add all of my goodies inside this. And I'm using some Cello sleeves. I will link these below for you. I get them off Amazon. They're really very inexpensive. I use them for craft shows to wrap up my cards when I sell them. And I am going to go ahead and grab 6 of those. So I'm going to position these inside my matchbook. Now they're going to be a little bit longer than what I'm looking for, but that's okay. I'm going to fold them over and seal them up anyway. So I will just make sure that I cut my paper to match the size of my matchbook. So I have placed these down here under that flap. I'm placing them down as tight as I can to the bottom of that flap. And when I'm positioning them, I have the sealed end at the bottom, and then the portion that will fold over, I have that up at the top and also facing towards the back. So I can fold that down over the back and you won't see that when the project is finished. So I wanted to keep these nice and straight as I staple them. So I'm gonna grab some paper clips and just use that to help hold this in the position that I want. I've got just a little bit of an edge on either end of this, probably roughly about 1/4 inch. And I've grabbed my Tim Holtz tiny stapler and I'm gonna add 5 staples along the bottom, going right in the middle there, so I make sure that I catch those really well. So there you can see I will fold that flap over to the back, and that's gonna fit really nicely inside the size of this matchbook. So now I'm going to go ahead and trim down my pattern paper. I wanted to have a background in each of these little cello bags. So I have trimmed those to 4 1/4 wide by 5 1/8 high. And I think you probably know by now from all of my other videos, but I am using the Crate Paper Hey Pumpkin line for the whole thing, of the whole project. So I've gone ahead and trimmed all of those out. I've got 6 different pattern papers and I've got them in the order that I would like them to be, and I'm just gonna slide them one into each of these bags. And there you can see when I fold these over, I'm just testing to make sure that all my measurements are correct. I'm gonna fold those over, they'll sit just like that, and then I can fold my flap down and tuck that into that bottom portion. So I wanted to have my flap be just a little bit higher to have that front tuck into. So I'm going to use one of the edges from one of the cut apart 12 by 12 pattern papers. And I've grabbed some 1/4 inch score tape. Now I ended up doubling this over just a little bit. I placed down the first line, peeled away the backing, and then placed down the top. I just wanted to make sure that entire thing was covered. And then I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna center Halloween there. And I will wrap that around to the back and do the same thing. Just trimming off a little bit of the excess there. So I'm gonna tuck in my flap before I fold this because I wanna make sure that everything's gonna fit together when I have this finished. So if I have it tucked in now, I should be able to tuck it in later, is my theory. I'm going to add some more score tape exactly like I did before. Just overlapping that slightly. And then I will fold down one of these edges. I'll add a little more score tape to the other end and fold that down as well. So now I'm just testing that out, and that fits in there really great. I'm going to go ahead here and decorate the front. So I'm just going through the cut aparts and the ephemera that I have. I will pull in a few of the cardstock stickers as well as the chipboard stickers. Going to add this little potion bottle towards the bottom here, and because I'm layering that on top of the Boo chipboard, I will then take my scissors and just cut off a piece of the extra sort of the side edges along that chipboard, and I'll place a little section of that underneath the bottle. Here you'll see I'm doing that right here just to keep everything as even as I can, and I'll add a little bit of art glitter glue behind that as well. Then finally, to finish this up, I'm going to add a few of those holographic stars up in the sky there. So one of the things that I wanted to include in my goodies were some supplies to make brooms, and I had made a bunch of these last year. They were and still are one of my favorite embellishments that I've come up with. So I've grabbed some paper straws and I'm trimming these down. I believe I went with 3 inches. And then the problem I had with the ones I created last year is that they were really thick. They only really worked as decoration on treat bags. So I decided that this year I would cut the paper straw in half. I'm going to make them the same way. I didn't add the web on this time, but I will do one here quickly for you to show you how I place them together. So I've trimmed these straws to about 3 inches. And then I am slicing them right down the middle as best as I can with my fingertip craft knife. And then I've grabbed some of my scrap pattern paper, and I'm going to use these are Martha Stewart fringe scissors, but there are dies that you can get. You may be able to find the scissors on eBay still. They are very, very old, but somebody might have some up for sale that you could find. And I'm going to go ahead and just trim along all of these to create the bottom portion of my brooms. Once I have the fringe created, I'm going to grab some 1/8 inch score tape. I'm going to run that right along the top of all of these. So when the recipient gets this, it'll be ready to go. All they have to do is put them together. So here's the one sample I'm going to create. I have peeled away that score tape, and I will just go ahead and wrap this fringe along the bottom. And this way you get the same look of the broom, but with about half of the width. Okay, so I've gone ahead to my Cricut and I've trimmed out a bunch of die cuts. The first one here is this Eeek sentiment, and I'm going to go ahead and glue this on the back of my pattern paper just so that the recipient will be able to see how it goes together. And then I'm going to slide that down into my first baggie here, and I will add in all the goodies to create these. And I used some Recollections paper to cut this out, so I don't have a specific color for you. I'll go ahead here and peel away that backing and then close down my flap. For the second one, I have created some haunted houses. I really love these. And I did some in black and some in gray. There are 2 different sizes. So for this one, I'm not going to glue those down since they're so large. I'm just going to strategically slide those in there. And then I will add the other ones in the front. For this next one, I've got some spiders and some bats and a haunted sentiment. And for these, I didn't have a ton of them, so I'm adding just a tiny little glue dot behind each one. That way they'll be able to take them off without them tearing. Again, sliding that down in my baggie, and I will add in the extras on the front. For this next one, I'm going to create a mummy wrap. I am really loving this mummy cloth that I picked up from Tim Holtz. In fact, it is almost gone. So I'm going to have to grab another couple packs for next year before the season is over. And I'm just going to wrap this around just to create sort of a mummy look. And then I'll just tuck that in the back there. And I wanted to add some eyeballs. So these are from Doodlebug. I got them a couple years ago from Simon Says Stamp. I think that they were a limited edition. I could not find them to link for you, but I did find similar. They're sort of just like an enamel dot. They just have the eyeball look to them. So I did find some similar ones, and I will link those for you below. I'm cutting in half here some removable glue dots. I'm going to add that behind the acetate that these are stuck onto, and I'll stick that on top of the mummy cloth here. Next, I will add in my broom making supplies. Just going to slide those down. And I really tried to put that sample broom on the front of this packaging, but it just didn't look right. So I'll show you how I used that in a second when we get to the end here. Lastly, I've pulled out some of the ephemera and cut aparts here and one of those little ghosts, and I'm going to add this in the very last pouch. Now for that broom, I couldn't get it to look right on the front, so I've grabbed a paper bag from my stash, one of the cut aparts that says I'll put a spell on you. I'm going to add some 1/4-inch score tape behind my broom, and then I'll add down this cut apart and the broom up at the top, and then I will just stick a little candy bar in that bag whenever I mail this. Oh, and one last thing. I felt like I needed a little something more, so I grabbed this washi from my stash. I picked this up last year at Michael's, and I'm just going to wrap that around the top of the bag here. So here is a look at the finished project. I really love how this turned out. I had a lot of fun making it. I did decide at the end here I needed a little something on that flap when it lifted up, so I grabbed another one of the pieces of ephemera, added some score tape behind that, and I'll peel away the backing and I'm going to place that right in the center here. And that will complete the project for today. Here are a few close-ups for you. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.